Hey there, welcome back to my kitchen. If you are new, my name is Mel and I just love to cook for me and my husband and share it with you here on my channel. This week I am sharing 3 one-pot dinners. I know I shared skillet meals last week. I didn't really mean to share 2 similar videos right in a row. It just kind of happened, but anyways, let's go ahead and get started and I'll show you what I made. Alright, so first today we're going to make these super easy one-pan enchiladas. These come together so quickly and they're really good. I started by preheating my oven to 375 degrees, and then over to my cutting board I had 2 chicken breasts. Mine were kind of large and I actually had a little bit more chicken than I needed, but that's okay, I still went ahead and used it up. I just cut those into nice bite-sized pieces. For this recipe, you're going to want to use a pan that can also go into the oven. So I went ahead and just used my cast iron skillet. This is a big one, I think it's 12 or 13 inches. I added my chicken in there with a little bit of olive oil and butter and just let that start to cook. I went ahead and added a little seasoning, about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, a couple shakes of pepper, about a 1/4 teaspoon of this chipotle chili pepper powder. This can get spicy, so I don't like to add too much at a time, just a little bit to start. And then about a 1/2 teaspoon of cumin and a 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder. I got that all mixed together and I let that chicken finish cooking through. Once the chicken was all the way done, I did just go ahead, turn off the burner for right now, and I added all of that chicken over into this large bowl. I'm also going to be adding in 1 can of diced tomatoes with green chilies in there. I believe this was a 10-ounce can. I'm going to get that mixed together, and then this is what's going to be our filling. You can always add more things to this filling, or if you don't like the tomatoes, you could just use the chicken and cheese, because we're going to add cheese here in a minute. But it's up to you. You could personalize it however you wanted to. So to make these enchiladas, I am just taking a tortilla, adding a handful of cheese. I'm just using some Mexican style cheese today, and then adding a scoop of the filling and then just rolling it up. I ended up using about 6 tortillas. That's how many would fit into my pan after being filled. And then I just had a teeny bit of meat left over in the end that we honestly just snacked on. But you could always add that into the pan around the enchiladas too. That would be totally fine. And like I said, if you want to change up the filling, you can do that too, however you want to do it. Once I got those all filled up, I added a 1/2 can of red enchilada sauce. I was just using the mild today. And I'm going to add all of my enchiladas straight into the pan now. Then I'm going to take the rest of that sauce, add that on top, and then I'm going to take another 10-ounce can and add that on there as well. Just try to get those covered as best you can with that sauce. And then to finish it off, we're going to add a lot of cheese on top. This is the best part in my opinion. So I'm adding about 1 cup to 1.5 cups of shredded Mexican style cheese, whatever was left in the bag after filling all of my enchiladas. Then this is going into the oven for about 20 minutes. Here's what my finished plate looked like. These were incredibly easy, very filling. As you can see, I just added a little bit of sour cream over the top with a little bit of hot sauce, but this was a really easy dinner. It came together so quickly and only dirtied 1 pan. Next, I have made this recipe on my channel before, and it was actually in my 25 best recipes of last year. This is a turkey and potato skillet. This time I wanted to make it with just regular potatoes so it would be less confusing though. Today I'm using red potatoes for this recipe, but you could use any potato that you want to, honestly. And I am using about 5 of these since they were smaller, but normally I would use 2 large potatoes. I went ahead and peeled those and cubed those into nice bite-sized pieces, and then I'm adding all of my potatoes onto a plate. This might seem funny, but this is just going to cook the potatoes really quickly in the microwave. That way it doesn't take forever in the skillet. Those potatoes cooked for about 5 minutes in the microwave, and then while we're waiting on those, we're going to get the ground turkey started. So over on my stove, I have my skillet. I'm adding 1 pound of ground turkey, and I'm just going to cook this through with about a tablespoon of minced garlic. Once the turkey is done and the potatoes are done in the microwave, I'm going to add the potatoes into the turkey with 1 10-ounce can of diced tomatoes with green chilies. You can always skip out on the green chilies if you want to and just add regular diced tomatoes, but that's up to you. And then I'm adding 1 can of drained and rinsed black beans, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of chili powder, 1 teaspoon of cumin, and then I'm using some of this chipotle chili powder. I'm not going to use a whole lot, maybe 1/4 of a teaspoon. I don't like to go too overboard like I said in the last recipe because it can get spicy really quickly. After getting everything in the pan, I'm going to give it a really good mix together and make sure the seasonings are mixed throughout. And then I'm just going to let this heat on my stove for about 10 minutes. Let the juices from the tomatoes kind of rehydrate those potatoes, and then we'll finish it up from there. Once all the liquid is gone and the potatoes, you just want to make sure that they are all fork tender. You're going to top it off with some cheese. I usually like to use Colby Jack or cheddar, but today I'm using a shredded Mexican style blend because that's what I had in the fridge. I added the lid and just let this melt down for a minute, and then it was ready to eat. Here's what my finished plate looked like. We love this dinner. I've made it several times now. I add sour cream, salsa, and green onions over the top, and I just think it's so simple. It's pretty decently healthy, minus the cheese obviously, but if you haven't made this one yet, you definitely should. And of course, last but not least, we're making this creamy Tuscan potato skillet. For this recipe, I started by taking 2 chicken breasts. I sliced them both in half to create 4 pieces of chicken. And then into my skillet, I added a tablespoon of butter and a tablespoon of olive oil. And then I just went ahead and cooked this chicken in here. I'm also seasoning my chicken with a little bit of pepper, salt, and garlic powder. I did season that chicken on both sides and there were no measurements. I just seasoned it. Next, over to my cutting board, I have about 1 pound of baby red potatoes. I'm just cutting off any bad spots I see on them, or spots that just don't look too appetizing, you know, and then I'm going to slice them in half. Once my chicken is cooked all the way through, I'm just going to remove this over to a plate for right now. Into the same skillet, I'm just going to add about another tablespoon of olive oil and then add the potatoes in here. With the potatoes though, I am going to take each one, this is going to be a little tedious and take a second, and flip each potato over onto the white side. That way it can brown up and get some crispiness to it. I let these potatoes cook for about 8 to 10 minutes until they got this really pretty color on them and they started to soften slightly. At this point, I added a spoonful of garlic and I got that all mixed together and let that garlic cook for about a minute. I'm also going to add in some seasonings now. I added in about a 1/2 teaspoon of salt to start. You can always add more later. About a 1/4 teaspoon of basil, a 1/4 teaspoon of oregano, and a few shakes of pepper. You can always go back in the end and add more of any of these seasonings if it's not enough for you. It is better to start with less seasonings and then add more instead of over season and have a salty or peppery dinner. Next, I'm adding a 1/4 cup of frozen spinach. You can add it in there frozen, it'll melt down. And then I'm also adding 1 can of diced tomatoes, and this one does have celery, green pepper, and onion in it as well. Once all that's in the pan, go ahead and give that a mix before adding anything else. Next, go ahead and take a 1/2 cup of chicken broth and 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. Mix those together in a little bowl or a measuring cup like I am here, and then add that into your pan. I also added in a half cup of heavy cream, and then I got this all mixed together really well. I actually added a lid over top of this and let the potatoes cook for about 10 to 15 minutes until all of them were fork tender. Next, you'll add a half cup of shredded Parmesan cheese. Freshly shredded does work better than just using already shredded or the grated Parmesan cheese, so just keep that in mind. And after all that cheese has melted, you're going to go ahead and add your chicken back in and any juices that are on the plate with your chicken. You'll just give this a few minutes to let that chicken reheat through, and then it's ready to go. Here is what my finished plate looked like. This was delicious, definitely super filling. As you can see, I added some more freshly shredded Parmesan cheese over the top, and my husband said that I should mention that this would be really good with tortellini. And I agree, it really would, but the potatoes were a nice change. Thank you so very much for watching today. If you made it to the end, leave me a flower down in the comments below so I know you made it all the way here. Thank you for your time, and I will see you back here next Sunday. I will not have a video on Wednesday, just don't have enough content right now, but I will see you back here on Sunday. Bye guys.